What will happen if you go outside during the curfew in Ukraine? One rule, never run. What's up, bros? I'm your favorite Ukrainian mate Igor. Welcome to a brand new video. In today's video, guys, we will talk about curfew. And also we will look on the insane situation about detained people who started to run away from the military. If you ever want to visit Ukraine, this information will save your life. I'm not kidding. First of all, the curfew is a ban on going outside during a certain time. And why did people come up with it? The reasons may be different. For example, during the coronavirus pandemic, a curfew was with the aim that no one goes outside and the virus isn't spread. It was introduced in some countries, so you may know what it is. But now in Ukraine there are different aims. Since the war began, many agents and saboteurs entered Ukraine. Saboteurs who work for Russia. And actually they did it before the start of the war in order to adjust missile attacks now, report information to the Russian army and cause all sorts of harm to peaceful Ukrainians. For instance, like throwing explosives in the form of toys near children's playgrounds or mining state buildings. The saboteurs also paint reflective marks on the pillars to facilitate orientation in occupied territories. On the roofs are marks for snipers and firing positions. Most likely this is preparations for urban battles. And the strangest thing is that they were not only in the eastern regions but all over Ukraine. And I personally saw a saboteurs who painted marks on the roofs in western Ukraine. If they were preparing for urban battles even here, then their plan was to seize all Ukraine. What a horror. So since it's difficult to sabotage during the day, such people will do it at night. And in order to facilitate the work of armed forces and police who find such people, the curfew was introduced in Ukraine. Currently it's in effect in all regions of Ukraine, slightly different depending on the region. On average, you cannot be outside during 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And even public transport stops run 1 hour before the curfew. And if you were walking in one area but live on the other side of the city like me, congratulations, you're stuck. But you know that restrictions during the pandemic and the war differ in their severity. Special patrols monitor curfew compliance. They may include armed forces, policemen, the National Guard of Ukraine, etc. etc. Patrols have right to detain and deliver persons who have committed offenses to the national police. Check documents, inspect things, housing, vehicles of the detained person. And look at this. Use physical force, weapons and special equipment against offenders. And in fact, you need to be very careful because of situation that happened recently. In the center of Brovary, Kyiv region, fighters of the voluntary formation of the territorial community shot at a curfew violator. The man was seriously injured. Later, it turned out that he was wanted. According to the preliminary data, members of the territorial community patrolled the center part of the street and saw a group of people drinking alcoholic beverages in a public place during the curfew. During the document check, one of the violators started to run away. What the hell is going on here? It's really dangerous. And the man didn't respond to the demand to stop, so one of the fighters of the territorial community shot in his direction with a Kalashnikov assault rifle and hit him in the leg. I can't show this footage or YouTube will block this video, but I'm just speechless. It wasn't an occupier or saboteur, but the person simply didn't behave correctly and began to run. Later, the law enforcement officers found out that the fugitive was wanted for theft. Although it turned out that he was a robber, but in my opinion there is a reason for that, and it's incorrect to shoot a person for rob or something like that. And what is more interesting, that the fighter of the voluntary formation of the territorial community who shot a man in the leg was accused of crime too. He is suspected of attempted murder with exceeding measures to detain a person. In my opinion, it's so, because man drunk and arrested in the street, and maybe it was possible to be more loyal, but on the other hand, it's war and rules are rules. Everything must be serious and strict, because police didn't know that it was not a saboteur or something like that. He just started to run. But is it true if you break the curfew you will be shot? Of course not. In the situation that we consider, the man began to run away from the territorial community, and police warned him to stop, or they would open fire, but he didn't obey. Well, we consider it the most radical option. But now let's talk what to do if you're stuck outside at night. Rule number 1, as you already know, never run. But to be serious, it's necessary to be adequate. Some sudden movement can lead to serious consequences, like a situation that we considered lately. Violation of the curfew, resistance and non-fulfillment of the patrol's demands most often may result in a fine, community or correctional work, or administrative arrest for up to 15 days. But if person behaves adequately, fulfills all requirements and doesn't resist, they can do even without a fine. Also, sometimes people who violated the curfew can be issued summonses for war. Everything depends on your behavior and the policeman who stops you. Therefore, it's simply better to follow the rules than to take such a risk. An interesting fact that some people can be outside during the curfew. In particular, there are various types of security forces, the military, as you already know, employees of the special services, some civil servants, and the people who work at critical infrastructure enterprises. Special passes are issued to everyone who has right to leave the house. In today's reality, civilians can also appear on the streets during the curfew, but only if there is an air alarm and a hearing for cover. Otherwise, you will have to be responsibility. Since I live in a beautiful place with European architecture, before the war I sometimes walked at night enjoying the beautiful scenery, but now, unfortunately, I can't afford it. I also have to admit that sometimes I feel like, I don't know how to say it, like I'm living in prison. Not only me, but there are a lot of people who like walking down the streets at night. When I come home from a walk and curfew is approaching, I feel a little anxious because the streets are as empty as possible. There are a few cars on highway and I always can meet a police officers or police car, something like that. And everyone seems to be preparing for something. But in fact, there are the realities of war. And the main thing, in my opinion, is to be alive and help my country to win. And you want to help me to win, you can support me on a Patreon, link in the description below. And if this video was interesting for you, please put a like and I'll be happy. And that's it. See you in the next video.